Hi, my name's Courtney Crandon. This is my presentation on legal aspects of teacher evaluations. In the first article, teacher evaluation from the NEA, it talked about the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and how it impacts education. Some key provisions were that the federal government cannot have any say over our evaluations. The only people that can say what we need for our evaluations would be our state. So our state can mandate how our evaluations are going to work and what happens with those evaluations. And then it also talked about that we can use our student academic achievement, but it is highly recommended that we use tools, trainings, and then have a solid system in place if that's what we're going to be using. The ESSA allows teachers their current rights, as well as they talked about wanting to involve improvement plans and due process rights. Those things should be considered when doing evaluations, and also that test scores are not an accurate way of grading teachers, but looking at student achievement on a growth plan. It also talked about that the NEA provides a teacher evaluation and accountability toolkit in case a district or state needs to look at that. Teacher evaluation and issue overview talks about the process of teacher evaluation. So beginning in the 1900s and then on through the 2000s, it was being discovered that some teachers were helping their students more than others. So some students were getting a better education, a higher quality education than, say, other students in different classes. So to put teachers all on the same level, they decided to come up with an evaluation system. Some students were learning way more in a year than others, and it just wasn't fair to the students. So in 2009, there was also a report that was found nobody was firing tenured teachers. And the whole point of being a tenured teacher was that so you had that safety net, that you cannot be fired. But it also was causing some teachers to just kind of get lazy because there was no push, there was no drive, there was nothing that they were working for. They already got tenured, so they couldn't be fired. They found that this was becoming a problem. So after revamping the teacher evaluations, they looked at making the evaluations stronger, making sure that there was feedback, helping the teachers find their strengths and seeing what their weaknesses were so they could have things to work on. Every state and district has different evaluations. There's no really set way that they have to have evaluations. So some states, some districts, they chose to have their evaluations unannounced. Some districts and states have their evaluations planned. Some happen more frequently throughout the year. Some just happen a couple times throughout the year. Some measure on student achievement more than others, and then some use a growth value. So there was a wide range of how states and districts evaluate, but it was showing that having that evaluation pushes our teachers to do better, to have something to work for. So then the next article was about the legal cases. I chose a legal case in Florida, Cook versus Bennett. This was the Florida Education Association filed a lawsuit saying that teachers were being judged unfairly. So basically the teachers were being judged on standardized testing even if their subject did not get standardized tested. So they were looking at the school standardized testing and then grading all of the teachers based on that. So art, PE, everybody that doesn't standardize test was also getting judged on how the students were standardized testing, even though they're not the ones that are teaching that subject. Maybe they don't even have those students. But the schools were using a school-wide growth formula. The result was that the federal court judged in favor of the state. This happened in May 2014. So the trial went on for about a year, and then it was appealed that the ruling was in July 2015. So one thing that I found was it said that the court asserts that these evaluations are a rational way to improve student achievement because the evaluations will motivate teachers to improve their teaching to help either their students or their school's program overall. So they felt that this could be a motivational tool for all teachers. This is the evaluation process in USD 259, which is Wichita, Kansas. This is where I teach. We've been using Marzano. This is the third year. So we have done some revamping. Feels like every year they change it up. But these are some things that have stayed the same. There are 3 types of observations that happen. The first one is walkthroughs. These are just short little 3 to 5 minutes. They're unannounced. Our administration, usually it's our principal or our assistant principal. They come in, they just check out a small couple minutes of our class and fill out our observation form. Then there's informal. This is a planned observation. This is a longer observation. It's 30 minutes. And we have a post meeting. So whoever was the one that evaluated us, we set up a meeting a couple days after our observation, and we discuss the feedback. Then there's a formal observation, which again is 30 minutes and planned. The difference between the formal and informal is with a formal, you have to submit a lesson plan the day before, and then you also have a pre-meeting along with the post-meeting. So going along with that, the years of experience determines what of those evaluations you get. So your first 3 years, you get 10 walkthroughs and then 2 formal observations. Then after that, you get up to year 5, you have 10 walkthroughs and then you have 1 formal, 1 informal. And then after your 5th year, all the way until retirement or until you leave the district, you get put on a 3-year cycle. So this just means that you are just getting these 10 walkthroughs, 1 formal, 1 informal every 3 years. The only thing that changes this year scale would be if you were put on maybe a probation year because your observations didn't meet the required score. There's a whole scale that goes along with Marzano. You have to get a certain grade to get a passing score, basically. So if you don't get a passing score, then you're put on a yearly plan with more observations and I believe more meetings with our principal. So Marzano, this is the evaluation model. These are the things that our evaluators look at. This is one thing that changed this year. The past 2 years, they had 60 things to look at when they came to observe us, and they shrunk it down. Now it's only this, and this is all they have to look at when they come. They just put it into more of a compact. The statements are a little bit more broad, but it makes it easier that our administrators don't have to look at 60 things when they're trying to come observe us. So the first thing, talks about the standard-based planning. These are just making sure that we are aligning our lessons, our units with the standards, and we're planning to close that achievement gap. Then we have our conditions for learning. So do our students know the rules and procedures? Are they engaged? Are we maintaining an effective level of, what am I looking for? I just had blank. Establishing and maintaining effective relationships in student-centered classrooms, and again, closing that achievement gap. Then we move on to is our instruction standard-based. So are we helping students revise their knowledge? Are we engaging them? Are they practicing their skills and strategies? Are we helping them process new content? Things like that. And then also our professional responsibilities. So are we maintaining expertise? Are we promoting teacher leadership? Things like that. So these are all the things our administrators look at when they come to any of our observations. Then I kind of talked about this a little bit already. So if a teacher doesn't like the score on their evaluation, they can set up another meeting with the administrator. I actually asked our curriculum coach about this, and she said it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes what happens is that there's a misunderstanding. The principal comes in, they're just coming in for a walkthrough, they see just 3 to 5 minutes, they have no idea what's been going on that day, they have no idea what has been going on for this unit. All they're seeing is a short 3 to 5 minutes. So sometimes there's a misunderstanding, and so the teacher can come have a meeting with the person that evaluated them and kind of clear things up, maybe talk about why they think their score could be better. So then another thing I asked our curriculum coach about, she said that this really doesn't happen very often. The only time you can really be fired for kind of a no reason thing is if you are a teacher have been teaching less than 3 years. So after your third year, it's not really tenured, but it's a little bit more difficult to be let go. So if you're a member of the union, you can take it to your representative, go through a grievance process, things like that. Even if you're not a member of the union, you can take it through the process, you just don't have that representation. The process of letting go isn't just, hey, you had a bad evaluation, you need to go. It is, like I talked about, Marzano has the scale. If you fall on the lower end of the scale, then you're put on a yearly plan. So then it would be after your yearly plan, if you're still not meeting the Marzano requirements, that would be reason to let go. So even if you were going to try to take it to a grievance process or fight it, the administration has a whole year, maybe even 2 years of evidence of why you're being let go. So you can fight it if you think that you're wrongly let go, but we're not just getting fired just on a whim. There's a whole process that goes into it. So things that I would do to make sure to not have any legal issues would be to follow guidelines. Through the Marzano, there are very laid out guidelines. I feel like it would be kind of hard to not follow the guidelines. Following the timeline given, that's another thing. Like I just had an informal observation. My administrator emailed me and said, hey, this is due by next week. I have to have it done. Let's make sure that we get this done. So making sure you follow the timeline, communicating with staff what is expected. Everybody on the staff that's getting evaluated should know how they're getting evaluated, why they're getting evaluated. We don't always know when, but as long as we know what they're looking for when they come to see us, then we can, as staff, follow the guidelines, and as an administrator, we can avoid having any problems with their evaluations. Then, of course, making sure to be fair. That's just pretty plain and simple. I think as an administrator, you need to be fair in anything that you do, especially when evaluating your staff. And then providing feedback. With Marzano, we have a clear sheet they fill out, they can type in comments, and the teacher gets it back usually within the next day or after our post meeting, depending on what it is. So giving that feedback, letting teachers know what they did positively, and if there's any constructive criticism. So that is the end of my presentation. Thanks.